Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of the Searchcast. Today with me, I have a special guest, Amanda Jordan. She's been in the SEO world since 2021, totally rocking out. She specializes in local, legal, and enterprise SEO, passionate about solving complex client problems, and is always up for a good challenge. Sounds like a master recipe for an SEO if you ask me. When she's not diving headfirst in digital strategy, Amanda enjoys playing with her dogs. We'll talk about that for sure. I'm a big dog lover too. And showing her son who's boss at Mario Kart, one of the best games of all time. Amanda,
Yeah.
thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk today. Get into all of it. Dogs, how I got in SEO, video games, all of it.
Let's start with the hot questions first. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a miniature pincher, and a lab pit mix and a hound chihuahua mix. But he's like all different types of hounds and chihuahua. He's very interesting.
And the pincher and the chihuahua think they're bigger, the biggest dogs in the house, right?
They do. They and they're the two males, so they fight over who's the leader all the time. Our lab pit mix, she's like my shadow. She's probably outside of my office door right now waiting for me. But she's the sweetest. She's the biggest and the sweetest. We actually found out that our dogs are each like twice the size of the next one. So like our lab pit mix is like if you cut her size in half, you get the next dog, and if you cut his size in half, you get the next dog. It's like okay, our dogs are an exponential of four from the smallest to the largest.
I have a Australian Shepherd who is supposed to be a mini, but he's 75 pounds. So I always joke, yeah, he's just on top 1% of mini Australian Shepherd size. So yeah, I got him out of the back of a truck in Colorado when I visited my parents when they first moved there, and I saw both parents. Both parents were there, and I was like, okay, yeah, mini Aussie, perfect. I don't know what happened. I think his dad might have been a coyote, but he's still sweet. I love him. He's my best friend.
Oh,
Question I ask everybody: Who would, out of all movie characters, TV characters, or book characters, who would make either a great or a terrible SEO, and why?
I think let's see. There's so many that I immediately think of. I watch so many movies, and Clarice from Silence of the Lambs. She would be a great SEO.
Okay, that's a strong answer. Why?
Because she's very analytical, like in
Okay.
nature, and she's always thinking everything through. I don't know why I thought about that movie specifically. I haven't watched Silence of the Lambs recently. Oh, I've been watching a lot of things with John Lithgow in it. That might be the reason why I thought of it. But
So,
yeah, she'd be a great SEO. She's very analytical.
knowing her background, would you hire her on your team?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would because like just having someone that understood the psychology of everyone on the team so well, better than we knew ourselves. I don't know. That'd be a little unnerving. I
I can
don't.
say that's the best answer I've gotten so far. We have a lot of people that go with the office route. You went very analytical. I love that. I appreciate that. All right, so SEO since 2011.
hmm
That's right around when I started as well. So were you pre or post Panda?
I was post Panda.
So like right when it happened then.
Yeah.
Awesome. How did you get into SEO?
So, that's a long story. I always thought I was going to be an engineer. That's what I wanted to do. I went to start off going to college for civil engineering. And actually did pretty well in the classes, but I hated taking more math. Like I was like, I'm done with math. I don't want to do this. So I had to switch majors. And I switched majors and I still hated it. So what I actually ended up doing, which I hope my parents never listen to this podcast because they don't know this. Like I would just go to school, but just sit in my car or hang out around campus instead of going to class for a while. And then I just stopped going. And then I got a job working at an ice cream place. And one of my coworkers was like, hey, I'm going to school for graphic design. You should do that too. And I was like, oh, cool. So I went to school for graphic design, and my first my mentor there and my instructor there helped me get my first job, and they were starting to do SEO, and they asked me if I wanted to learn, and I said yeah. So
I think we have similar career paths in the sense that we both hated math. I'm good with numbers. I'm not good at just, formulas and the dynamic nature of it. I'm good
Mhm.
at reading something and retaining it, and it's dynamic like that. It's a little bit hard, which is kind of ironic that I ended up becoming an SEO because nothing ever changes or nothing ever stays consistent, right?
Yeah.
But I totally get you there. That's so cool. How do you think SEO world has changed since 2011? A lot is
Hmm.
stayed the same, a lot is different. If you had to like give a chat GPT like summary of what's changed since then, what do you think those biggest impacts have been?
The way we think about content and view content, because I first came on helping that first company I worked for with content and the evolution of what is considered good content in SEO has changed significantly, at least like the production and scaling of it. Because back then it was just like, you just need a couple paragraphs, you're good. And now, and now it's a lot more complicated where you're thinking about the intent, average reading level of the reader, what terms they consider important and relevant, entities, all those different things that before were not even a thought. Like I was still coming in a place where like you could spam many things and still rank well, to now where that is significantly more difficult. Or if you're using AI to do it, you may win for a while, but you will eventually crash and lose all of that visibility and rankings.
Yeah, I think this the stuff that stayed the same is there's always been bells and whistles where people often chase, and then back then it might have been like SEO nuke or like paying for backlinks. Now it's all AI and all this stuff. It made it a lot easier to get stuff done, but not done well, implemented
Yeah.
correctly. 2011, that's when I started my career as well. So I remember what my experience was like trying to learn and get educated on it. Today's world, everyone has so many YouTube videos and helpful classes, and there's a lot of conferences, and there's so many free resources.
Yeah.
Plus, the SEO, just the talent pool is expanded. There's so many agencies, in house,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. There's always like a senior manager or director you can learn from. Back then, it was a little bit different. Walk me through it. How did you get your like education or your training on the job?
Yeah, so I was very lucky in the fact that like I was kind of left to my own devices. Like it was a like we trust you to figure it out. And because I was given that freedom, I was able to learn a lot about different industries, different types of businesses, different strategies, and understanding what actually works and what doesn't work. And not because someone told me, it's because I experienced it myself and I tested and verified it for myself. I think that was one of the things that really helped me early on. And then just being so analytical that the people that I worked for just immediately had a trust in that I would figure it out. Like just and that trust helped me so much. And even when I did have jobs where it wasn't like I didn't come on for an SEO role, but I knew that they needed SEO, just taking that initiative to do it, and then it became my pet project. So no one was like expecting anything out of it. So like when they got stuff out of it, they were like, "Oh, this is really cool." Like I worked for a t-shirt company. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. That's where I originally lived. I worked for a local t-shirt company that actually made shirts for Gamecocks. Like they were like the number one like printing company for like Gamecock merchandise. And they didn't like they had an e-commerce store, but not really. And they weren't keeping up with it or doing anything with it. And I helped them grow that to the point now they have like, I think 5 different brands
Wow.
that they have e-commerce stores for, and now they're in actual physical stores and everything like that too. But just like I get very excited and passionate about the impact I can have on a business, and I think the people I work with saw that, so they trusted me to figure things out and test things and report on what I find. So that's really how I got like a really strong foundation. And then like I'm also competitive, so like I just want to win. So I don't. There's no yeah, speaking of which, that I have a military father, and I think that's where the competitiveness comes from. So like, yeah. So to me, I can't. There's no such thing as I can't, or I can figure. I can definitely figure it out. So like, I don't give up easily on anything. I'm the most stubborn person like anyone has ever met. So that definitely helped a lot too.
I think stubbornness is oftentimes frowned upon as a character trait, but I think for SEOs, it's like one of the most underrated traits you can have because it's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of theoretics involved and testing, and it doesn't always go as planned.
Yeah.
But it is nothing's more rewarding than when the puzzle comes together, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, you said you're ultra competitive. I think that's another super key thing in SEO. But when you started, what was the initial draw for you? Was it? I mean, I know you said like traditional school engineering, all that stuff wasn't really necessarily your passion, so it's hard to It's hard to grind those days out when you're just not excited about it.
Hmm.
Looking back on it, if you could talk to your younger self, what would excite you about SEO getting into this career today?
I think SEO is something that marries all the things that I really love, and I am just naturally gifted at. I do like numbers and I like data and analytics. I do like psychology and behavioral sciences. And I have a graphic design degree, so I do have somewhat of a creative side, even though it's not the place where I like to stay the most. And I find that SEO and just digital marketing as a whole, it marries all three of those things together in a way that I don't think a lot of other jobs do. And also like the flexibility, like I get to work from home. So like now, like if I'm gonna, my past self, like starting off in this industry would not have guessed that where I am now in a million years. Like last year I went to speak at Brighton SEO in the UK. Have never been to the UK before ever, and I was doing it for a conference so I could speak there. So like a lot, SEO has afforded me a lot of opportunities, and I think it's just because it takes so many of the things that I'm naturally gifted in and passionate about, and puts it together for me in something that I can do every day. So it's really rewarding for me.
I love that answer. I can tell you're passionate about it. You've been so successful. Brighton's a huge deal, so congratulations to you. That's so cool. I went to Brighton, in the U.S. for the first one last year. It was an
Yeah,
awesome event. There's such great speakers, and for our first year conference, like they knocked out of the park. I think that was the best, second best conference, maybe even first last year. I think MozCon was done really, really well last year, and
thanks.
but Brighton was very good.
Yeah, yeah.
So your first client ever was an e-commerce client. Is that what kind of what the takeaway from that? Like the
Not
t-shirt.
necessarily. My first client ever, I actually started with local. Like the
Okay.
very first clients I worked with. Like this company that hired me as an intern and just said, like, we'll trust you. Like they had me talking on the phone with like doctors and surgeons and stuff and helping them put their websites together and doing like domain transfers and all of that stuff. So like it started off just like, hey, we need someone to do these things. We trust you to figure it out. And that was like my first foray into SEO. But then from there, I did go into working for the e-commerce company, and really actually making them an e-commerce company
Yeah.
from like a more like physical local business. And then from there, I went to working for an agency that only did SEO for attorneys. And I think that's really when the trajectory of my career started, because that's like if you can do that, you can do pretty much anything in
Highly
SEO,
competitive.
because it is one of the most competitive markets, especially for local. Like you
Absolutely.
really can't. In Florida
Absolutely.
too. Like my clients were like in places like Florida, Texas. So yeah, and then from there, I got the opportunity to work at Adapt Partners, which is now Locomotive Agency, with J.R. Oaks, and he
Brilliant.
like that was the next step where it like boosted my ability so much, because I learned so much from him about data analysis, about storytelling, about like quality of your deliverables and the information that you're giving to other people. That blew, like I never had that perspective before, because I never worked with someone else who was as passionate about me as me as was about SEO, and he was. So and that's what like really turned a corner. And he also was the person that told me to get on Twitter. In my interview, he told me you should get on Twitter, and I was like, and that is like so like yeah, and yeah, so like I had a really good mentors and people that I work with that encouraged me to like really like take some chances and see where it takes me. And I did like follow those because like it made sense to me. It made sense. The data backed up their recommendations, so I did it.
Shout out to JR. I've never met him personally. I heard him speak for the first time last year, and my only takeaway I really remember was this guy's forgot more about SEO than I'll probably ever learn. He's just brilliant.
Yes.
He's a great storyteller for sure. So that mentors play a huge part in growing your career for sure. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good mentors now, especially in the industry. Even if you don't know them personally, you can learn a lot. Like you said, SEO, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's a lot of good places to learn. A lot of
Yeah.
great influencers such as yourself. If you were to start someone new, in SEO, they're like, hey, they came to you. I really want to give this a shot. Where would you
Hmm.
put them? Would you start them on local SEO? Would it be enterprise? Would it be just e-commerce? Where do you think a good path for them to start is?
I think a good path to start, if it's someone who is like really analytical, really driven, e-commerce, I think is a good place to start. Just because if you think about where a lot of people are going to buy, what the future of like SEO is going to be, a lot of it is going to be e-commerce or software as a service or something that is in that realm. So like just from like thinking about what can I immediately like get a job in and what can I immediately grow skills in to the point that I can make a lot of money. That is the route that I would recommend going is e-commerce and software as a service type clients and sites. And then if they were like a little bit gun shy and weren't sure, I would start with local SEO because I think that can be great for building confidence, especially if you start off in like for with a business that's not in a very competitive market. So just seeing that you can get results for someone can be really, I think, really like validating for someone who's newer in SEO, and it helps them say like, okay, I can do this. Like I figured it out.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. There's no doubt if having a really rewarding career financially is your motive, then if you the faster you can learn e-commerce, the more job security you definitely have because it is
Mm-hmm.
a very niche skill. Not everybody has great experience doing it. I like starting people on local SEO as well if possible, just because it's much easier to get that first win, like you said, especially in a market that's not as competitive, and then they can
Mm-hmm.
kind of see the impact it makes on that small business owner, and they're like, it's very gratifying. You
Yeah.
really are giving back to your local community or whoever it might be. But yeah, I totally agree. I love that. What are some of the first like you get a brand new client or potential prospect? What are some of the first things you look at a website to determine there's a lot of growth here, or like they're actually doing a pretty good job already? What are some telltale signs that you look for?
Yeah. So the things that I immediately look for is just like the very basics. Like, do they have page titles that actually include a keyword at all? Like, is there an H1 tag on this page that makes sense? What is the navigation of the site like? Is it difficult to find pages? Those are like the very first things I look at. I also, of course, like do a crawl of the site, and I don't like this is something I actually learned from Blake Dinman. He's the owner of the agency I work for. But is to look at which pages are not indexable because that can be very telling if there's an issue. Like, because I think a lot of the times we assume like, oh, all the pages that you want to rank for are indexed, right? So we just look there and we don't think about looking at what's not indexable, and that can be very telling because there's been times where we find scary things there. The next thing I would look for is like duplicate content, especially if it's local SEO. I work with a lot of like multiple location businesses. So, and they are often the ones that have that issue the most. So I look and make sure like, hey, is there any duplication? Another thing I look for is if there's any lorem ipsum text, like that is being indexed
Placeholder,
because
yeah.
you would be surprised by how often that is still happening. And it's not something that I think everyone checks for because it's another thing. It's such an easy thing to not have wrong on your site that if we overlook it a lot of the time. So I check for that specifically. Obviously, like in that crawl fours, like how many redirects they have. Do they have any redirect change? Things like that. So like despite the fact that I am a local SEO, like I really see every aspect of making a business rank in a specific geography as local SEO. So to me, technical SEO is local SEO too, because if your pages aren't being indexed, then you're not going to rank in any city. So like that's my point of view. So those are a lot of things that I look at. I do look at the Google business profile. I do think a lot of businesses have gotten really good at understanding that they need to just completely fill that out. And I think part of that, like I hate to say Google did anything well, but I think part of that is that they've done a better job of like helping businesses understand that they need to complete all of the information there. Um,
With
but
the
yeah, like
caveat that
I
they're like, it's not 100% unless you do LSA. You need to advertise.
yeah, yeah, that too. But yeah. So those are things I look for. Mostly looking at on-site and technical, because I think a lot of businesses could do good with GBP. It's just that they're lacking in the technical and content and, perspectives most of the time, and they seem to understand backlinks decently too. I think. I mean, yes. Do I see like sketchy backlinks all the time? I saw one from like one site that was like indiabacklinks.com. It's like, are you serious? Did you really think that was a good idea to get a link from that site? Like, that's ridiculous.
Like, there's
But
only $5 for 3,000. How can I say no?
yeah, there's still some things like that going on, but I've seen that diminish over time. I feel like that's not as big of an issue as it previously was. Correct, like at least in local SEO. I cannot speak for other industries, but even with like smaller HVAC companies where they're like their nephew's the one that made their site for them, and they're trying to do it on the cheap, like they're still getting, like, even those types of sites, they're getting better at understanding some of the fundamentals, which makes it really interesting for us, I think, because it means that we're not always teaching the fundamentals anymore. We can actually talk about strategy and like things that are much more interesting, the game theory of SEO versus just fixing very obvious mistakes.
I think that is so understated oftentimes in the SEO world. Sometimes the most simple solution is the easiest one, and we oftentimes skip over it because it's like certainly can't be that. For example, I just had maybe 3 weeks ago, someone had called me like, my whole site is just, I think we got penalized. It's just horrible. Like, all of our pages are gone. And I just told them the first thing. I was like, "Are you WordPress?" They're like, "Yes." "Did you update your site recently?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "I go to settings and see if there's a box check that says do not index the site." And that's all it was, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, these companies were quoting them, 10K plus a month for an audit, and it was, a 5-second solution fix. So sometimes the
Yeah.
simplest answer is the best answer. You can't overlook the fundamentals, but to defend business owners and marketing leaders that are in charge of their orgs, sometimes you get all these audits from these agencies or these contractors that are really well respected, and you start picking up on technical terms, and you get so obsessed with core web vitals and hreflang, and you're like, oh my
Hmm.
god, we're failing everywhere. But then, to your point, you look at it, you're like, well, you guys are missing a lot of fundamentals too. Each one's the same. Your homepage,
Yeah.
the title tag is home.
Yeah. 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 That's what I'm looking for. And honestly, like, my goal, there's actually, I think it's Wired that does this on YouTube, but they all have an expert on something explain it to someone like a elementary school kid, a
Sure.
middle school age, like high school, and then like someone with like a PhD, and have a conversation about the same topic. And if someone can explain quantum mechanics to a 5-year-old in a way that they can understand, we are making SEO too complicated for what it is. Like, I'm not someone who's very into like the theoretical parts of SEO. I focus on the practical, just because I think we can definitely demystify it even more, and we can set up these clients where, and I know this is probably an unpopular idea, is that they can do the fundamentals themselves and get it right, and then we're doing the things that are like going to make the difference as far as strategy, and then we're pushing our industry forward, because it's not just convincing people to do the most basic things correctly, or it's not trying to talk over their head to the point that they have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that we run into all the time, right? SEO is like this black box where owners, they know they need it, they know it's important, they don't understand it.
Hmm.
What is kind of your elevator pitch for SEO?
Yeah. I mean, because I work in local SEO, it's very easy, because it's like, hey, you see how your competitor ranks number one for HVAC near me in your city? Don't you want to be there? Like, that's really the elevator. I think, like, and I do see that a lot of businesses are catching on to the importance. I think for them now is like, trusting whoever they work with. I see that as the biggest obstacle for a lot of businesses, is not necessarily seeing the importance of SEO, but trusting that the person that they're hiring is being honest, is doing the work that they're saying they're doing, is like trustworthy and capable of getting the results that they would like to see. And that's the part that I'm seeing that a lot of businesses are hesitant about SEO because of, not because they don't think it works. It's just that they've been burned.
Absolutely, and that's talked about this on the podcast previously with guests, but that's the unfortunate thing about the SEO industry is back when we started in 2011, right? It was like a cash cow because
Hmm.
all of a sudden it's like this new boom. Everybody, it's expensive, it's important, and a lot of the top salespeople from agencies just were like, I don't want to give half my commission away. I'm going to do this myself. So they
Hmm.
sound really good on the phone or on a video conference, and you don't really know. Everything sounds good. And then the
Hmm.
best SEO pitch or the worst, it's got very similar verbiage the whole way
Yeah.
through, similar
Yeah.
storytelling. And the owner unfortunately doesn't know if it's good or bad until you're 4 to 6 months in, and all of a sudden, like, I just wasted 20 grand, 30 grand, 100 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
So that part is tough, but I think,
Yeah.
driving to your point, driving value to that relationship is so important. What are some tips you have for driving value? Starting on day one of the campaign.
Yeah. So, well, I want to go back and say one thing. Like, one of the cool things we do in our agency is that we don't have any salespeople. Like, if someone wants someone to review their website and get on a call with them, talk about it, would likely be me. So, like, if someone comes to a conference and hears someone speak about SEO from our agency, it will be someone who actively works on client sites every single day, and not someone whose job is to sell. So like I feel like we have a greater accountability to our clients because like that we're attaching our name to our work in multiple ways, which is like a very smart way to do our branding and marketing because like if I tell you something, I mean it because I don't want you going to everyone else saying like Amanda Jordan lied to me.
You told me I was going to be number one in 3 days, and it's been 7 days, and I'm nowhere near number one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I like it's just never going to happen. I think that level of integrity that forces us to have is amazing. But as far as like gaining that trust, I think part of it is just being straight up and honest with clients. When I talk to clients, if they don't understand something, I will walk them through my exact process of doing it. I will record Loom videos walking through things. I'll get on a call with them, showing them. I will show them where I pulled the data from. Like there's no, I don't want there be any doubt in their mind that I'm actually doing what I think is in the best interest of their business for the goals that they set with me. And that's it. Like I have no ulterior motive. I can't sleep at night if a client is not like happy. Like it's not there. I don't go sleep like a baby if I know that there's something wrong or going on with one of my clients and I need to fix it. Yeah, that's just the perspective we have. I think that's part of it too. When someone has like intrinsic motivation for their work is that it makes it significantly easier to do good work because you care. And I think a lot of local SEOs probably feel similar, especially like if you're really responsible for your clients, is because you know you're having an impact on a franchisee whose goal is just to feed their family and make money. You know that if you're talking directly with a business owner, that business owner is partially relying on you for the success of their business. So yeah, and seeing it in that way makes it like so much easier for me and the people on our team just to be honest and straightforward. Like I've been on calls where I've told someone, I don't think we're the best fit for you, or I don't know if SEO is even the right
Sure.
channel for your business to grow because like if they're not making more money, we're not going to feel good about it. Like we're not going to feel great about what we did if we lied to someone or gave them the impression that something's going to work when it's not. And I tell them that too. Like it's like I'll tell them like, hey, I don't think this is going to work. I can't guarantee you're going to get the amount of results that you want. Like I can't guarantee that the return on investment you receive is going to be as high as you want it to be in the first year, but over time it should be. Like those, we just have those conversations, and like if they don't like that answer, like that's okay with us because they were going to end up being unhappy anyway, and they're likely going to end up having to come back to us because they're going to go to someone who is going to burn them and come back and say, you know what, I remember what you said before, it didn't happen. Is there a way we can work together?
Yeah, that's the best case. The worst case is they're like, SEO doesn't work
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they got burned by
exactly.
it,
Yeah,
like a snake oil
yeah,
salesperson type of thing. So I think a big takeaway for me from what you just said is setting expectations early on in the campaign, even before the campaign starts, like
yeah.
during the quote unquote selling process or the
Mm-hmm.
getting to know you process. Setting those expectations are just super important. But sometimes with SEO, it's happened to every amazing SEO person I've ever known. Sometimes you have a great strategy, you have a great client on paper, everything should be great, but the campaign just doesn't work out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the top reasons for the like? What are the biggest inhibitors of a successful SEO campaign?
I mean, especially with enterprise or multi-location businesses, it's not being able to get buy-in for things that you need to get
Yeah,
done. And then the other part of it is having to wait on people on their side to get things done that your team could have done like months ago, but unfortunately, like with the way their workflow and processes are, you can't do that. I think those are the some of the biggest hurdles. And with those hurdles, what I like to do is to make sure that I'm telling the story in a way that meets either like like the shareholders, stakeholders, whoever they are, who's unwilling to go along with what the strategy is. Making sure I'm talking to the things that they care about, and I'm not just speaking like an SEO. Like, well, our like average backlink domain authority is blah blah or something like that. Like, they don't care about that. That means absolutely nothing to them. If you tell them our topical authority, our brand authority is low. One of the ways we increase this is by doing this. And by doing that, we will also have more visibility and we will be more likely to be picked up by search engines and AI tools. Like, then that gives them like, that is more interesting to them. But like using SEO speak, digital marketing speak, often does not work with them. And they need to hear like what actually is going to be done and what impact it actually will have. And with getting things done, it's important to understand the actual workflows that your clients use. Like, if you get as much information that you can, so you can give them step by step what you need them to do, so it gives them as few hurdles to getting it done as possible. So that is one of the things those are two of the things that I see the most. And then sometimes it's just like your competitors, like you're missing something. Like, there is a factor in this play that you cannot see and it's not very obvious at all. And it could be your perspective is limiting you, or you haven't seen this issue before but someone else may have and they would have been able to find it, or they were hit by some algo update in the past because they had spammy backlinks but they got rid of all of them and they didn't happen to mention that when they first came on board. Like, there's also all kinds of random things that unfortunately we may not know about or be aware of at the time.
No, I think you're spot on. I think getting implementation done, if you don't have access to the site, is the number one inhibitor of SEO success. And it can happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you work with a franchise or a big organization, enterprise, and they don't have the ability to give you access, and they're relying on a third party, web dev team that they're still waiting to get paid on their side, so they're not implementing anything and going back and forth. I had an experience like that in my career too. I was working for a big pharmaceutical company as a client, and we had amazing deliverables, amazing strategy. Everything should have been great. But if you've never worked in pharmaceutical before, then you realize you can't write about much. It's got to be only branded stuff. So, you are working on this multi-billion-dollar portfolio. And I do the research and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be like the best portfolio case study I've ever had. There's the whole world is my oyster. And then 13 months later, not a single thing gets implemented. You're like, yeah, well, that was frustrating. So,
Yeah.
totally get that. And to your
Another
point
one of
about,
my favorites is like, we can't say this specific word on our website, but it's the keyword that, like, the word that has the most search volume
yeah,
and possible for what they offer. Yeah, like those types of things. Like, when there's a legal restriction on how they can talk about what they offer, that is also another thing that it's a blocker for sure.
I remember, I had a major fast food client, and I would think it's like a healthy food option, but they're like, you can't use the word healthy on our website. It's like, okay, well that's tough then, because you have no competitive advantage anywhere. Then everything else just it's like a sandwich or a soup or whatever it might be. So totally get that. And I think another thing I wanted to address, I think you're spot on as well, is you having the authenticity when you're talking to your point of contact there and speaking to what's important. I know you're a huge sports fan. There's nothing works in coach speak, right? Especially after a loss, and they're just like, we just need to execute better.
Mm-hmm.
They say a bunch of things without saying anything at all, and I
Yeah,
think that's why fans don't like coaches sometimes, and I think that comes across for SEOs as well. A lot of times they're unsure of what we do anyways, and if you're not shooting them straight, they don't know exactly what you're saying, but they know you're not telling them the whole truth.
yeah.
You're definitely not hearing them out. So totally agree. um, Question for you. You already mentioned your parents. You're like, I hope they don't watch this podcast, and I don't hold it against you. It's totally fine. Do your parents know what you do?
No, my parents have no understanding of what I do
I,
at all.
I
Like,
feel I feel that. So how do you explain it to your parents? Like, what is it that you do again?
they would probably say something like she does something with computers. That's likely what they would say. Like, my mom had her. It's so funny because like my mom, like I bought her first tablet, and that was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Like they are like not tech savvy people at all. It was just so interesting because like I'm an SEO, my sister is an SEO. They have two SEOs, and like we did not like going to college. We didn't have our own computers because like our parents did not understand them or anything like that. So yeah, like it's interesting, but yeah, they don't get it. I don't even know how they would. I think my mom would say like I don't even know what she does. Like she'd be like I don't know what she does. She has a nice house though, so I guess she's doing pretty
I think she
good.
posts on Facebook all day. I'm not really sure. That's what my parents do too. They're like, he does something with social media, I think. And it's like, no, I mean, not really. Kind of sometimes there's overlap, but
That's
not.
funny. There's this person that lives in my neighborhood, and I was like taking my son to the pool this summer, and she was at the pool too, and she was like concerned about her son because he works in digital marketing, and she was like, and I was like, no, I work in digital marketing too, and then I was telling her about my job, and she was like, oh, that makes me feel better. Like she was concerned. She thought her son was like secretly in the mob or something. Like he's doing something to make this money that is not real work.
I mean, hey, kudos to him. He's making good money, right? Doing something he loves. So that's awesome. As we're wrapping up here, couple questions. Want to leave open ended at the end, but obviously AI is a huge part of today's marketing world. Do you think SEO jobs are more safe than ever, or are they going away in the next 5 years?
I think SEO jobs are more safe than ever if you're actually doing SEO. I think if you're doing things that are SEO adjacent and trying to make like I don't know product packaging for SEO and things like that, a lot of the things that you're doing is going to be replaced. If you're doing SEO strategy and strategic work and planning and working with other channels and marketing to come up with things, like AI can't do that. Like, and it's not going to be able to do it in a way in 5 years that I think humans are really going to connect with in a way that they would do if another person worked with other people to put it together. I think SEO is going to be a little bit more part art and part brand marketing moving forward. And I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be really interesting.
I agree with you. I've said it before on the podcast too. If you are an SEO NPC, I know you're a gamer, right? But if you're an SEO NPC and all you do is title tags and meta descriptions and image alt text, like yeah, then your job is a little bit sketchy because that's exactly what AI can do. But if
Yeah.
you're an actual strategist, you can actually audit a site and analyze competitors and be the actual expert in the room. Then I think your job is more secure than ever, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
So
yeah. Because there's going to be plenty of people that try to use AI to do what you do and realize it's not going to work. And then they're going to hire someone like you because they realize it's not going to work. And I think that's how it's going to go. A lot of businesses are going to try to find the cheaper way to do it. And it's not going to end in their favor, unfortunately.
all right, open ended question. Any hot takes as your predictions for the rest of 2024?
I don't really have any hot takes or predictions for the rest of 2024. I mean, I think the future of SEO is brand marketing. I'll say that. That's my hot take. I think the future of SEO is actually being involved in other channels instead of treating SEO like it's like a checkbox list. So like, okay, we did all these things, we're going to rank. And I think the most successful SEO strategies in the future are going to be integrated marketing. It's not going to be SEO as a standalone channel.
I love that answer, and I couldn't agree more. And I think really smart people like Moz, right? They introduced it at MozCon last year, the Brain Authority.
Yeah.
Companies are investing in it because I think you're spot on, and I think that's the trend I would lean towards as well. If you go back and listen to previous episodes, I was thinking that the Geo or Gemini wasn't going to happen this year just because it was so unproven,
Hmm.
and then I was wrong on that because it did come out, and then but I was right on the fact that I didn't think it was going to come out because they haven't incorporated in Search Console. We have no insights in there,
Yeah.
and that part still has come true. Is still true. Do you think we're ever going to get insights, or not ever, but in the next 6 months, do you think we're going to get any sort of insights into
I think
AI?
no, just because Google is terrible at updating Google Search Console and providing useful things in there in general. So, and like, I'm still waiting for Google Business Profile Insights to be better. So,
Aren't we all?
hmm.
It's arguably gotten actually worse in the last 18 months. So yeah, we're going the wrong way there. But tinfoil hat, my conspiracy theory there is they did it on purpose because they want more people. It for a business owner when they go into 2 years ago, they could go into GVP and be like, "Wow, we're getting a lot of calls. We're getting great discovery. I don't need to do LSA, for example." And
Yeah.
they've limited the resources, and now they're just shoving LSA down everybody's throats, and they're like, "Look how many insights you have."
Yeah.
So I think it was on purpose.
You know what? I would not be shocked by that at all.
Just a theory. There's nothing to it, right? Amanda, thank you so much for coming on. Any shout outs, any plugs? How can people find you? If they want to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. You can find me on YouTube and TikTok at Amanda Jordan SEO. If you want to get in touch with me for like SEO things, Amanda at ricketyroo.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Amanda Jordan. I will be at Brighton SEO San Diego this year, so I will catch y'all in November too.
Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank you.